And I want to welcome you to our expert breakout sessions for SOA and API Summit. This is a session for Red Hat. And with us this morning, I'm really glad to be able to reintroduce Samir Parukar, Product Marketing Manager, JBoss Enterprise Middleware. Samir, welcome back again to SOA and API Summit.
Thanks, Vance. I'm glad to be here.
Samir is an accomplished solutions and integration architect, which in this world of the extended and connected enterprise is a virtue for us here at the SOA API Summit. He has more than 14 years in expertise in SOA, middleware, and project management. And prior to Red Hat, he served with Progress and Genzyme, among other major companies. And in his session today, Lightweight Integration for the Connected Enterprise, Samir will take a real high-level look at how enterprises are looking to connect and link together their apps, data, process, and devices, even their people, in this whole world of mobile and cloud and even IoT, and with a special theme about architecture and how open source, particularly some projects from Apache, are helping drive integration solutions for this very exciting yet challenging world of the connected enterprise. And just a quick reminder, if you haven't already done so, you can download Samir's slides. Let me recommend that you do that during the session. There are some great schematic architecture images that I think you'd find useful. Just click the button under the viewing area. You'll also see that Samir and his team have brought some other downloads available here right now in the room without any added registration. And we like to make this interactive where possible, so if you have any comments or questions for Samir, just type into the Submit a Question box. And now, Samir, let me hand it back to you and tell us about lightweight integration for the connected enterprise.
Thanks, Vance. So welcome, everybody. We're really excited to talk to you in the next few minutes about lightweight integration and how that relates to a connected enterprise. So before I go more into lightweight integration, what I wanted to talk more about is an important concept more about services, because I believe that a services is really at heart of any architecture that you do, like application development or creating an application. Services are kind of are more important and very important for that. So if you just look at the history behind what a service means, right? So if you look back 10 or 14 years back, right, we had some, of course, service-oriented architecture. And a lot of people say SOA is dead, and that's fine. But there was an architecture pattern called service-oriented architecture. And the idea behind that was, you create reusable services, right? So you encapsulate your business logic in this one service, all the complexity in this one service, and you make sure that you make it shareable, and then people actually can use this. Instead of creating their own new business logic, they can just leverage an existing business logic. And that arrived the concept of service-oriented architecture. So you had a service producer, where is basically somebody who actually creates the service, and a consumer who actually calls the service. But most importantly with SOA was also this concept of service registry, where this service could now be actually registered, and then people can now look at these services, browse those services. And there were lots of different standards that were there, like the WSDL standard, and then how to call the service, and all the different WS standards. So what happened is it just became very complex to actually develop that type of an architecture, as well as in a lot of times integration was actually part of the SOA architecture practice itself. But the key thing I wanted to highlight here, the objective or core focus in that paradigm was reusability. So the idea was design was like, you want to create a service, you're going to spend your time trying to figure out what's the best way I can create this service, how can I share that information, how to make sure that this can be easily shared within your organization. So a lot of emphasis was spent on reusability and design. Take a few years forward, and around maybe 3-4 years back from now in 2015, right? Now you had this concept of APIs, or application programming interfaces. Now again, APIs are not new. APIs have been there for a long time. Programming language like Java has its own API that you can use now to interface with Java. Any application could have its own APIs, and what APIs were basically a window to talk to that application, to interface with that application. And different APIs came and evolved in different ways. But the kind of concept earlier was more about within your enterprise, how do you interface with that application? APIs were never considered more about, okay, how can I interface within different business groups, or how can I interface between your suppliers or partners? That's where now, when the API when people started associating much more with API architecture pattern, they started talking more about, okay, I have this concept of an API or a service, but now I want a way by which I can interface with my partner. I want a way by which my supplier can now look up my API and then says, okay, I want to interface with you. Then once you start doing this type of interfacing, then the other concept is, okay, for my ecosystem, how do I provide a way by which these APIs can now be shared within my ecosystem? They can actually, so a consumer can find my API, subscribe to it, and then say, okay, I'm using it. And once you do all that, the same service provider, now an API provider, could now provide metering for that. And that's where the API management concept came into picture. But the key thing here is for any of this pattern, right, the objective or focus was collaboration. So basically collaboration between different entities, and then itself generated its own economy. So there is something called as an API economy, because now when you create your APIs or services, you can easily share within your suppliers and partners. So, and that's the key thing. And fast forward today, now you're talking more about microservices, right? And a lot of people say that microservices is a new way or an improved way of doing SOA. But regardless of what you call that, microservices is essentially a simple unit of work. And the critical thing is it's an independent unit of work. So essentially you can take that service and you can deploy it, you can destroy and redeploy the same thing. So you can make the change, but we can update it. It's not dependent on anything else. So the independence is actually what it gives that microservices more agility. So what it means is that as your business demands much more services, much more different applications or requirements change, it's easy for you to go ahead and implement those microservices. And again, the agility is actually provided by all the advancements in cloud, all the advancements in containerized technology, where the containers provide you the core foundation and platform to create these microservices in the first place with all the DevOps practices. So it's not just the technology, it's the entire standard around it. It's kind of like the entire process around it. So it's kind of really impossible to say that, okay, I'm going to just do a microservices. You need to first create a service first. Like, you should have some kind of a design philosophy, some kind of a way by I can create the service first, and then you can start thinking about microservices. But the key thing I wanted to again highlight here is the objective focus now with microservices is basically agility, right? How fast can you do this? How small can you keep it? And how fast can you do it? So again, as we see through these different paradigms, the service-oriented architecture focus was reusability and design. APIs focus was collaboration, and microservices now the focus is more agility. But the thing that I wanted to emphasize here is that regardless of how you frame the services, the core capabilities that are required for integration like transformation, mediation, routing, as well as data integration or data virtualization are still required. So any enterprise would still require those. Now your transformation itself could be a service. Your routing itself could be a service, and the service could be a microservice, but those capabilities are still required and they're still relevant. And that's what I wanted to emphasize. I thought that this was actually important to talk about that before we move into the next step. So I earlier mentioned about digital transformation, right? And as organizations embark on this digital transformation, so kind of what exactly is a digital transformation? And what we mean by digital transformation is basically a way by which an organization connects all the information across different entities. Your people are your most important asset. Your people, your customers, your partners, your suppliers, and each one of you is generating some information. There is a way by which you're actually creating that information. Then you have your processes, right? Your defined processes or your new processes. Then you have your applications, your on-premise applications or your new cloud-based applications. The actual data could be in so many different forms. And last but not the least, and again, doesn't stop here, but all your mobile devices, your tablets, all the things. And when you talk about how all this information that goes through all these touch points actually now is connected in some fashion and works in some fashions to provide a consistent user experience. So once you provide the consistent user experience, once all these digital assets are connected together, then you as an organization now can provide innovative solutions, can provide competitive solutions to differentiate yourself, and most importantly now with the cloud, allows you to now provide adaptable services. As your business requirements change, this all can be now updated and changed in a more unified fashion. Gone are the days when a new initiative would take like 6 months or 1 year. Nobody's going to wait for that. Things change at a much rapid fashion. Gone are the days when you can listen to your customer information from your database or your data warehouse. Now you have to look at the social information, like what your customers talking about you on Facebook or on Twitter, and that's where the people come in, but also the applications come in, and all this information needs to be connected together for you to now provide those innovative solutions and to adapt as you provide those solutions. So that's the digital transformation that we talk about. So what is a connected enterprise? So as I mentioned earlier, if you look at any enterprise today, it has all these traditional on-premise applications like your ERP applications, your custom applications. Now, combine that with there are certain organizations who may have distribution or logistics information. All of this could be different applications. If you have a pharmaceutical company, then they may have their own manufacturing, they may have their own compliance applications. All of these have been your traditional applications. But now along with that, now you have more cloud applications coming in, more SaaS applications coming in. As workloads move to cloud, you have more cloud applications, more SaaS applications. At the same time, you have all these new trends with cloud, mobile, big data. So mobile is becoming big. Now your business is demanding more mobile solutions. Your customers are demanding more mobile solutions. And with this new trend of IoT, more information is being generated. Now, the information generated from all the different things, the people are now looking at, okay, how can that information now be integrated with all my other information assets to now make better solutions? How the sensor information could be now captured to now even make much more intelligent decisions, right? Much more intelligent solutions. So all this information needs to be connected in some fashion, whether that information is generated on-premise or whether it is generated in cloud. And when you actually connect all this information together, only then can you provide really the consistent user experience, the innovative solutions, adaptable services. And so what we believe is that a connected enterprise as an enterprise is the one that actually leverages all the information across all their applications, devices, services, across all these different trends, and is actually very prepared to now take care of any new information assets that come across. It's impossible that an enterprise just connects all the information. It always wants to do it. But the key thing is really true connected enterprise is the one who's actually ready to do all this information, who's ready to connect all this information together. And when it does that, then as an organization, you're enabling success of your digital transformation. As I said, as a digital transformation, the people, the processes, the applications, the mobility, the data, all of that has to work together in a cohesion. So with a connected enterprise, it provides you the pathway and the foundation to actually do that. So what is needed for a connected enterprise? Right? As we said, that connected enterprise is something that you can connect all this information together. So what is required is an integration platform that allows you to now connect all this information together. But the critical thing is, as I said, innovative solutions, adaptable services, right? The adaptable service is also very important. And to do that, your integration platform has to be very modular. But what we mean by modular is it supports multiple use cases. You're not locked out of a particular use case just because your architecture doesn't support that. Adaptable architecture, as your use cases change, now you have new mobile devices, you have basically different storefronts as your companies expand. They move from storefront now to much more online. As you keep changing this, your integration platform supports you in terms of those use cases. It's lightweight, it has a flexible footprint, use only what is required. So basically you're not saying that, okay, take this entire platform and deploy it for all your needs, where maybe there are like the 100 features, but I just need like this 10 features. So that's what the lightweight provides. Gone are the days of the old ESB style monolithic architecture where one single platform takes care of everything. No, I think what you need is a new ESB style architecture or a new integration platform architecture where it's much more modular and lightweight. The other thing is multiple connectivity. As now you see all these different information sources, you need a way by which you can connect to not only your traditional information sources like your custom applications, your cloud applications, any of that, but also your SaaS and PaaS applications, your mobile applications, all the new sensors as well as data or the IoT applications that are coming up. You need a way by which you can connect all this. And a platform that is cloud-based. It is based on the cloud foundation, the agility, flexibility, and the deployment choice it allows you to. Whether you want to deploy that platform on your premise or whether you want to deploy it in cloud, doesn't matter. It should provide you the flexibility to do that. So an integration platform which has all these high-level capabilities like modular, lightweight, multiple connectivity, cloud-based, allows you now to be on the path of a connected enterprise and allows you to be much more successful in your digital transformation. So from that, I wanted to move on to Red Hat middleware in your business. So as part of the Red Hat middleware platform, we provide multiple capabilities within our portfolio. We provide you capabilities to accelerate your application development. So you can now create lightweight applications much easier in a much more agile fashion. Again, based on the JEE platform, based on the standards, but depending upon what you want, how you want to develop those. Again, very fast accelerated development. We provide capabilities to integrate all your information together. So connect all your systems, applications, and data across your enterprise. And we also provide capabilities to automate your business processes. So once you connect that information, once you develop your applications, once you connect your applications, you can also now automate your applications. So we can provide you all those capabilities. And most of those capabilities are provided in a very lightweight fashion. So the platform is very lightweight, very modular, so you can use exactly what you want. You can deploy it in different configurations. You can deploy it on-premise or you can deploy it on cloud. So next, moving more into the integrate capabilities. So we have products within the integrate pillar, which allows you to connect your systems, applications, and data across your enterprise. Products like Red Hat JBoss Fuse, which is actually our integration platform, Red Hat JBoss EMQ, which is the messaging platform, and data virtualization allows you to now connect all your information assets together. So JBoss kind of with any integration, the core integration capabilities that you require are the heart of it is messaging, which provides you the real-time communication between your different applications. So Red Hat JBoss EMQ provides you the messaging capabilities. As with any Red Hat products, it's based on the open source projects, and Red Hat JBoss EMQ is based on the open source Apache ActiveMQ project, which has again been there for a long time, very well known, and has a growing community and a big ecosystem. Once you have the messaging, the other things that you need is basically the transformation, mediation capabilities, routing capabilities, connection capabilities, and that's where Red Hat JBoss Fuse provides you the integration platform. And it's actually based on a project called Apache Camel. And Camel has been there for the last 5-6 years now. And Camel has become extremely popular, very widely used now. And the nature of Camel is actually very lightweight. It's based on the enterprise integration patterns, and I'll talk more about it in the next few slides. And it provides you all the connectivity. It's very lightweight, modular, cloud ready. And with Fuse and EMQ, now you can integrate everything and you can integrate it everywhere. Next is the data virtualization product, and this allows you to now integrate your data across your different applications. So you think about it like virtualizing your data or creating like a data service. A very good example is any organization, and I'm sure this is there in your organization also, the customer information is in different enterprise systems. It's not the same customer information. It's like different customer information through your CRM system, maybe an ERP system or your custom application. So to provide a unified view of customers is always difficult. With the data virtualization product, you can actually create a unified view by connecting all these different data assets together. And that's called basically a virtualized data service. So that's what the data virtualization provides you to do. So again, now with that, the advantage that you get is basically now you get the right data in the right form and in the right time, and a single point of access and control. And again, that is also very lightweight and cloud ready. So with both the data virtualization product as well as the Fuse product family, we provide you a way by which you can connect all your enterprise systems. So all your system interfaces like the file-based. Now any organization has a lot of file-based integrations. With Apache Camel, you can connect to those applications also. Different web services, like we provide connectivity to healthcare standards like HL7, so you can connect to that. Your custom applications, we partner with our for mainframe connectivity, as well as packaged applications and all the cloud assets like the Salesforce.com, Google, as well as any of the social media sites like Facebook, Twitter. So connecting all this information together, which provides you now a way by which you can now create an adaptable services. And the critical thing with JBoss Fuse is that it's based on Apache Camel. It includes Apache Camel. There is this book out called Enterprise Integration Patterns, and a lot of the architects will probably know this book. It's kind of like a Bible of integrations. So essentially what it does is it has documented the most commonly used integration patterns. So for example, any common integration that you do is pick a file, read the file, make transformation, and write to another file, right? All of this is like a pattern. It's a very common pattern. All of these patterns are documented in this book. So what Camel is basically is the most popular implementation of the EIP pattern. So all the patterns are already implemented. It's actually now becoming more or less like a de facto standard to build this flexible and lightweight integrations. So again, very large, vibrant, and growing ecosystem, very lightweight, very modular, can be deployed in various different configurations, and you can support different use cases now using Camel. So again, very commonly used integration patterns to design, develop, and accelerate your integration development. And so overall, as I was talking more about the lightweight integration now, what happens with the Red Hat JBoss integration platform is that the way we can provide you the pathway for lightweight integration is because of Apache Camel, because it provides the simple, lightweight, and fast integration. And it's like the new way of doing integration. It's kind of like the de facto integration standard now. Not the same monolithic one ESB architecture, but much more distributed. You're not really locked to the old monolithic ESB architecture, but you basically now can do different types of use cases. Again, another key point that I had mentioned earlier was use exactly what you want. You don't have to necessarily log down to the entire, all the features. It's very modular. You use exactly what you want. And again, based on open source, true with any Red Hat products, those are true open source. The same product, we make it available on open source so that you can actually try the product for free for development use. You can download it, you can play with it. It's the same enterprise product that we actually provide as a subscription, and with all the subscription benefits that you get. So no vendor lock-in, and again, a lower cost and lower risk compared to the competition. And last but not least, modular architecture, cloud ready. So again, all the products that I mentioned today are based on cloud. And the key thing with cloud is it provides you now the agility. So as I spoke back, one part of the connected enterprise and digital transformation was adaptable services, right? Innovative services. The adaptable, the quick, innovating, you need a way by which you can experiment. You can fail fast. You can develop, test something. If it fails, then you want to redeploy it, you redo it. So all these processes with the cloud-ready architecture, it actually allows you to do all that. So it provides you to be now successful within your digital transformation steps. There are a lot of customers who have successfully used JBoss Fuse technology and the Red Hat middleware integration technology to be successful, and they've deployed a lot of innovative solutions. So some of them are E-Trade, which is a leader in financial services, again using the JBoss AMQ platform to integrate their applications. Avianca is the oldest airline in Americas, and it actually uses the lightweight JBoss Fuse platform to again integrate their different enterprise applications to create new innovative solutions to provide a single customer unified experience. So kind of going back to what I was mentioning earlier, when we talk about a unified customer experience, you cannot do it if you do not have a connected systems, because your information is distributed. So for example, if I'm an aircraft passenger, if I go on the airport side, if my information is not connected, the flight gets delayed. All of this has to be integrated in a cohesive fashion. Vodafone is another customer who has successfully deployed mobile communication solutions using the JBoss Fuse platform, and AMD is another customer. And all of these customers, we have case studies available, so please go ahead and read those case studies. At the end, we have more references here, like to the redhat.com integrate page, where you can actually get more information about lightweight integration, download and try the products on jboss.org, or the same enterprise products, true to be an open source, are available on jboss.org for download them, try them, give us your feedback. And again, with Fuse, we have tons of connectivity options available. There is go to jboss.org products Fuse connectors, and we have also a lot of demos available. So look at those. In addition, we had a paper with IDC. IDC actually interviewed some of our own customers to do a business value of Red Hat integration, and then you have an entire white paper that actually talks about customers speaking about what are the benefits that they got using JBoss Fuse technology, how innovative they were, how successful they were with all the lightweight integration. So last but not the least, lightweight integration is very important as you embark on your journey for digital transformation. Lightweight integration gives you the pathway to be much more successful in a connected enterprise. So that concludes my formal session. I will turn it over to Vance for any further questions. Thank you.
Samir, great session. Very rich in content and lots of good conceptual issues about the state of integration technologies over the years and the new patterns emerging. Really great session.
Well, thank you.
It's generated some questions, both high level as well as implementation questions, Samir. So without any delay, let's pursue these questions.
Okay.
Let's start off with a top-line premise here. I think it was very interesting to some attendees that you went through the more well-known integration patterns out there from SOA, API, and even microservices. And a question kind of arose from that discussion. It simply says, does Red Hat suggest I need to modernize or migrate from a traditional SOA or messaging architecture that I've used for internal projects to be ready for the connected enterprise? If so, what are the steps?
That's actually an excellent question. So the key thing is to make sure that you are ready and your practices that you follow are ready to be successful in the connected enterprise. So it's not that you want to get away from what you've been doing, but basically learn from what you've been doing and learn how you can actually now create much more lighter weight and modular solutions. So when you create those modular solutions where you can now integrate all your different information together, you now slowly are in a path to now becoming a much more connected enterprise. So again, not saying that you do away with what you have, but learn from that. Try to see where you can now start leveraging much more lighter weight integration, where it's much more modular integration. So now integration is now at the heart or the fabric of all your solutions. So that's the key.
Very good, very good. And do you have recommendations, Samir? Because many of our attendees here at this event, as you may know, are pretty seasoned enterprise architects and integration professionals. Have you got a sense of engagement that you're seeing from other customers that you could give them some insight as to how they would get started with that assessment?
Yeah, sure. So I think the best thing to do is look at the customer case studies that I mentioned, some of them in the references, like the Avianca APD case study, and look at how they are actually doing this. In addition, what I would strongly suggest as a true open source way is there's never one way to do everything, right? To be very truthful, the best thing to do is look at the Apache Camel community, look at all the different use cases that are being implemented. It's a big community, it's a very wide ecosystem, and check with the people over there. In addition, if you go on jpals.org, we do have much more demos that shows you how to do these lightweight integrations, and you can ask questions at any time, and certainly there are folks who can actually help you with that.
You know, it's a really good point, Samir. This concept of the community and Red Hat and through Camel and through other projects has certainly been key to that. So that's a really great suggestion. In fact, let me turn now to a question about Apache Camel now that you bring it up. We've used Apache Camel for years for internal on-prem integrations. Are there improvements the speaker would note in Apache Camel or other open source projects that support this extended enterprise projects? Apps, mobile, IoT, etc.
Sure. So the key thing is, you have multiple connectivity options. So now you may have used Camel before and you may have just used it for more transformation. It has great capabilities for transformation, mediation, and routing. But in addition, it has all this new connectivity available. It has more than 150 plus available right now, and it's actually the list is growing. So you will see that there are connectors to Google Drive, there are connectors to Google Calendar, there are connectors to social aspects like Facebook, Twitter. All these connectors are there. In addition, there are connectors to Salesforce.com, SAP, all these enterprises. When you talk about enterprise connectivity, you can now connect all of your cloud assets together, right? So that's the key thing. In terms of IoT, the another key thing with Camel is that Camel actually includes messaging. It's all there within Camel. It uses Apache ActiveMQ. And if you look at ActiveMQ, as I mentioned earlier, the project has been there for several years. It has a long history. It's a very high performance open source messaging platform. But when you look at what it does, it actually supports different protocols. Some of the protocols like MQTT or message queuing, telemetry transport, or a Storm protocol, all these protocols are actually very critical when you look at any IoT type of application. So now with Camel, you can actually interface those applications. In addition, Camel also has this new connector called the Camel Cura component or the Camel connector component to Cura. And all that does is it actually allows you to now interface using Camel with the Cura, which is like an OSGI-based IoT platform or an embedded platform. So you can now not only listen to the sensor data like temperature, pressure, but you can also now integrate that with your enterprise system. So again, what I was trying to say was with the cloud connectivity, now with the IoT connectivity all being available, there have been a lot of improvements already in Apache Camel, now included with Fuse, that allows you to now expand your connected enterprise solutions.
Very good, Samir. You know, speaking of the improvements in many of these open source projects, let's turn a little bit to the Red Hat productizations for integration. And the question here says, can you spell out some of the more recent Red Hat investments in JBoss Fuse or other integration productizations?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things we have done is, so JBoss Fuse is essentially productization of different open source projects. So it includes Apache Camel, includes Apache ActiveMQ. Again, the key thing we have done with JBoss Fuse is that when you look at integration, one is the productization of these integrations projects, right? The other aspect is when you look at any of your solutions, your requirements don't just stop at integration. Your requirements, okay, I integrated these applications, but now maybe I have also my BPM processes, right? So how I want to create a BPM process that leverages these integrated services. Now, how do I do that? So what we also provide is a way by which you can easily interoperate between your Fuse and your BPM projects, right? With the JBoss BPM suite product that we have, you can actually now easily interact. In addition, when you create BPM processes, we also have something called as rules management capability, where you can now use business rules to not only create, design, develop, and also manage and deploy the business rules. But to do that, how can that work in cohesion with your integration? You can do that now because we provide you the interoperators. So it's not just productization of this integration. It doesn't stop there. It's also how we can interoperate between that and other products within our portfolio.
Oh, very good. You know, speaking of offerings, Samir, just another quick follow-up here, kind of a question and a comment. We're using a lot of iPaaS integration to share data back and forth with various SaaS systems. Does Red Hat offer a solution for this use case?
Sure, we do. So that's one of the key things with our product portfolio and our strategy and vision is that we have something called as the JBoss XPaaS services. And what we do is that we now provide you the same integration capabilities that we offer on-premise or connecting to the cloud like JBoss Fuse, and we offer them now in a cloud setting, right? So more or less like the iPaaS-like capabilities. So the same enterprise capabilities now you can run on an OpenShift platform. If OpenShift is our platform as a service, and it allows you to now use all the goodness of the cloud and allows you to now create your applications and allows you to create the platform. And with JBoss Fuse for XPaaS, the same integration capabilities are now available on OpenShift. It allows you to connect all these different applications. So one of the differentiation with other iPaaS providers is that a lot of the iPaaS providers may have certain specific use case that they implement. So they may just say that, okay, we only do a connectivity between Salesforce and SAP. So we do not restrict you to do that. We actually allow you to now create the same iPaaS-like capabilities, but full integration capabilities available. And you can now do it in a much more private setting. Like with OpenShift Enterprise, you can now get all the full iPaaS-like capabilities on your private enterprise. So you have more control, you have more security. You can now control the standards, but now you can also have integrations. So why just stop at application? Also have integration as part of your entire DevOps CI and CD strategy.
You know, that's an excellent discussion, Samir. I think a lot of folks are wrestling with this sort of hybrid or connected enterprise and what some of the best ways to update or refine their existing enterprise architecture is. And here's another question about that. You mentioned data virtualization. And this question says, we've heard a lot about data virtualization, but haven't really figured out the best way to put it into our enterprise integration architecture. What are the main functions or benefits of data virtualization, and who works on it? Integration professionals or data professionals?
Yeah, so this is a excellent question. So the key thing is the example that I gave earlier about customer information in so many different systems and a unified view to that data. I think that's very critical, right? So I have worked on projects like healthcare related projects where the provider information or a doctor information is in so many different systems. It's really, really impossible, even using application integration, difficult to make sure that, okay, you're just talking to this one provider. So with this data integration technology, you can now connect all those different information assets. You can apply the rules that you want, and then you can provide one unified provider information within your enterprise. So that's kind of like a pattern that I can think about, that you can go about. So as you start thinking about your integration projects, you can start thinking about that it's basically you're creating like a virtual data service that you're now providing to your solutions and within your enterprise. Now, in terms of who actually does it, whether it's really application integration teams or the data teams. Now, it again depends upon every organization, how they are structured and how they actually want to do this. Quite frankly, it shouldn't really stop with any team boundaries. It should be much more an architectural choice, and then depending upon who is best suited to actually implement that, actually now implements it. So it shouldn't really be bounded by the traditional boundaries.
You know, Samir, this has been a great session, and before I let you go, given Red Hat's commitment to both open source and the cloud, I really want to have you give our audience a way that they can begin to test drive some of these new integration options for the connected enterprise, whether they're open source downloads or they're cloud-based sandboxes. Can you give us a sense of how folks can engage with these Red Hat offerings?
Absolutely. The first thing you could do is just go to jboss.org and you can just download the product, and there are samples already available and to allow you to get started with the product. So you can download the product, would help you get set up with that, as well as there are samples that tells you how to actually develop not only just simple sample, but actually a quick solution of how to actually develop that solution. That's one good way of doing it. The other way is once you now get familiar with that, there's also some intro on jboss.org on about Camel. So if you're totally new to Camel, to get to know the Camel terminology like Camel routes and everything, there is tutorial available to help you get started. Then you can actually also go to Camel. So depending upon where you come from, so you could be familiar with Camel, and then you can just go on Apache Camel website and get to learn it, and then you can download the products. If you're not familiar with Camel, you can download the product, you can get started, and then now learn more about Camel. For each product, there is actually a link out there called the associated open source projects, and you can actually find them. So similarly, you can actually look at for Cloud for OpenShift, there's OpenShift Origin, which is the associated project, so you can actually look at all of that.
Well done, well done. Samir Parulkar, Product Marketing Manager, JBoss Enterprise Middleware at Red Hat. Thanks very much for a great session, and really for helping folks get a sense of how they can enlarge their on-prem integration infrastructure to support all these exciting new projects and do it within an open source framework. A really great session.
Thanks, Vance.
And as we love to do here at SOA and API Summit, Samir mentioned many resources. We're going to put a slide up here that summarizes some of the main ones that'll let you branch off and do your own exploring. And we've also got a link to some of the downloads or trials that Samir mentioned right here in the breakout room that'll open for you right now. Thanks again, everyone.